It's always wonderful to have you here, Rhea. Thank you. And it's good to have all of you here. This month, we are looking at one of the 12 powers, and that power is elimination or renunciation or release. And it's about letting go of things that are in our way, letting go of things that are prohibiting us from revealing the Christ as us, letting go of those things that have been obstacles in our way. So today we're looking at getting out of our own way. My wife and I didn't get quite enough of moving. I moved here almost 7 months ago, and then Olga Lucia arrived about 4 months ago, and then our pod arrived, and we unloaded all that and moved all that stuff, and then our car, and we moved all that, and it wasn't enough. We wanted to do some more moving. So we moved to another part of the island, and got a place almost twice as big for the same price, and newer, nicer, and beautiful place. And we get the Maca. It's facing the mountains, getting the breeze off the mountains, and beautiful view of the mountains. And so we're very, very grateful. And one of the things I've learned about moving is that you find out how much stuff you have. I should have brought some baggage with me just to illustrate the point. As we've tried to get around boxes and luggage and try to find our way, and Olga Lucia will point to a stack of big boxes that are 5 high and say, I need that one. The one on the bottom? Yes. You need it now? Yes. And so I'll remove all the ones on top. Then she'll go to another stack. I need that one. The one on the bottom? Yes. You need it now? Yes. And so we get this wonderful opportunity of discovering all of this stuff that we carry around with us, right? And ever since I moved here, I'm on the board of trustees for Unity Worldwide Ministries. And I have this very important notebook for Unity Worldwide Ministries. And I haven't been able to find it ever since I came to Hawaii. Until we moved. And I opened a box, and lo and behold, there it is. So we're discovering things we need, things that we don't need, and finding our way around. But what I notice is that it's easy for us to be in denial about our stuff and about our baggage until we start getting some movement going. If we're staying static, if we're staying still, we can be in denial and say, I don't have any baggage. I'm talking, of course, about our lives. I don't have any baggage. I'm very happy here. I don't know what other people are complaining about, And it's kind of like growing up in an alcoholic family. Everybody can see that there's an issue. Everybody can see that there's baggage and that there's problems, except for the family that are all in denial. I mean, even the dog under the porch knows there's a problem. But the people in the family are in denial, and a lot of us have learned to be in denial, and in denial about our own stuff, our own baggage that we're carrying around with us. And if you doubt that you have baggage, move into some new venture in your life. Take on something in your life that you could not take on, that you could not accomplish other than by the power of God. And you will discover your baggage. Because you will begin to hear inner voices saying, who are you to think you can do this? Or you will run into some areas, some old programming in your mind that will get in the way of you accomplishing this new thing. And we all have programming. If you don't know that you have programming, then you are lost in the program. We all have programming, and it's like a computer that has viruses, and it gets these programs that are running in the background, and it weighs it down, and it slows it down, and the computer gets all hot and bothered. We have these programs, these viruses that have gotten into our system that makes it difficult for us to reveal the Christ that we are, the true presence of God that we are. We have these programs like, oh, I'm not enough. I can't do this. Poor me. I have these dreams and I have these things that I want to accomplish, but I can't do it. So somebody needs to do it, and I'm going to go start telling other people that they need to do this and that because surely it's not up to me. But again, if it comes to you, it's yours to do. If it's coming to you, if it's coming up in your spirit, then that is the way that Spirit is seeking to express as you, right? What else can get in the way? Well, our stories. Our stories can get in the way. Our stories, like, have you ever been walking down the sidewalk or something, and someone you know really well walks past you and doesn't even say anything to you? Now, maybe you've never had that happen to you. But I've had that happen, and I can begin to come up with a story. Like, well, who do they think they are? Just walking past me like that. I thought we were so close. Or I might say to myself, I wonder if they're real preoccupied. I wonder if something is going on in their life. I need to make a point to myself to go to them later and see what's going on in their life, because there might be something that's really taking up some space in their spirit. And when I allow myself to think that way and check with them, many times that's the truth. But our mind is a meaning-making machine. Life just is. Life just is. Life happens. But our mind makes up stories about what's happening in life. I was part of a very, very big hospital system in Wichita, Kansas. I worked at at least four of its different hospitals there in Wichita. And at one time, there was a merger of hospital systems. Have you ever been in a merger? It's not always easy because it's a change. People don't typically like change. And so there were people from one system that were saying, that other group is trying to take us over. I know what they're up to. They're trying to take over. They're not fooling me. And then people from the other hospital system, they were saying, those people are trying to take over. They're trying to control what we're doing. Now, it was the mind making up this whole story. Is your story getting in your way? Now, some of us have some great stories, and some of us have had them for years. We've tried them out with therapists, we've tried them out with employers, we've tried them out with spouses, and they've worked for us over the years to maybe get sympathy or to give us an excuse for trying something new. We've used stories to maybe manipulate other people or to in some way excuse ourselves from personal responsibility. Like, I can't do that because I came from a poor family, or I don't have much education, or my mama treated me bad, or you don't know the trouble I had with my ex-wife, or you don't know about the lawsuit, or you don't know about this or that. And it's a story. I'm not putting down the story. But what I'm saying is, have you made the story the primary thing, or is Spirit the primary thing? Are you focusing on the circumstances, or are you focusing on the source? And our story can get in the way. This thing that I was talking about, the oneness blessing, it's thousands of years old. And it's a technique to help still the story, help us to get in touch with the true self, the Christ self, the God self. It's a means of, it's one means, and there's lots of means. In Unity, we talk about denials and affirmations. Myrtle Fillmore, one of the co-founders, and I'll talk about this more in the 1 o'clock session, but Myrtle Fillmore grew up in a family where many of family members had tuberculosis. And Myrtle Fillmore, early in her life, was given a terminal diagnosis of tuberculosis. And to top that all off, she was told she inherited it. She was taught that you inherit terminal illness. And so she grew up with this as a very young person. She and her husband, Charles Fillmore, went to a lecture led by E.B. Weeks. And E.B. Weeks gave this affirmation that Myrtle used for 2 years along with other healing prayers and treatment. And the affirmation goes like this: I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Let's say, okay, repeat after me. I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. She used that for 2 years. Now, that's an affirmation and a denial. The affirmation is, I am a child of God. That is, I am in the presence of God. I am a child of God. The denial is, therefore, I do not inherit sickness. A denial is a means of gently sweeping away any power that we give to error thinking. And the affirmation, which is typically an I am statement, is grounding us in the truth of our being. And so Myrtle Fillmore, for 2 years, talked to the organs of her body, asking for forgiveness for ever calling them weak or diseased, and used that affirmation. And after 2 years, she had no signs of tuberculosis. And she lived a long, long time in her life. Now, her husband, Charles, was a skeptic at the time, and he was skeptical about the whole thing. But when he saw what happened in Myrtle's life, it piqued his interest. Now, again, what are we allowing to get in our way of fully experiencing the presence of God? Is it trying to straighten other people out? Is it that our lives cannot be all that we want our lives to be until others straighten up their act? That we cannot fully experience the presence of God right here and now until they straighten up? That's called victim consciousness. Victim consciousness is when we give other people the power to determine what our consciousness is going to be. Victim consciousness is saying other people determine how I show up. Other people determine what I'm going to be. Just like, you've probably heard people say this. You make me so mad. Or maybe you've said that. And the truth is, no one can make you mad. You can choose to be mad. You can choose to feel anger, but no one can make you anything because your consciousness determines who and what you are. We decide that. Our consciousness decides that. We are the ones who create our experience of life. We are the ones who create our experience of life. So, again, in the hospital system, I worked with people who had all kinds of illnesses or who were quadriplegics. Quadriplegics, okay? People who could not use their legs or arms or had very limited use of their arms. And so what did we do? Did we sit down and get lost in the story? Did we sit down and say, boo-hoo, this is what happened to me? What did we do? We went snow skiing. So we took a group to Breckenridge, Colorado, with quadriplegics, paraplegics, other people with neurological disorders. They have a special disability ski program in Breckenridge, and we hit the slopes. Because they determine their circumstances do not determine their life experience. Even what's happening in their body does not determine their life experience. So they were willing to do things that many able-bodied people were afraid to do. And so my friend who went with me, Barney Haas, you remember Barney? You know, I mean, he would get on the blue slopes, and I mean, he was doing the parallel skiing. It's like a sled thing that you sit in and has a single ski, and they have someone skiing next to you. I mean, it was amazing. We are the ones who determine our experience of life. It's not up to your mama. It's not up to your education. It's not up to what you are handed. It's what you do with your consciousness that determines your experience of life. And whatever gets in the way of that, we need to move out of the way. Whatever you're experiencing in life, whatever your circumstances, regardless of how other people show up, regardless of the things that are happening around you, you are the one who can declare. And Jesus knew this truth. He stood in the truth. He stated the truth. And he lived it and taught us to do likewise. As we go into the season of peace, which goes from the end of January until April 4th, the season of peace is about promoting peace in our lives and in our world. And it is nestled between the assassination dates of Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was someone who, as a lawyer, got kicked off the train in South Africa because he was a person of color. Gandhi was someone who went to India and stood for the rights of the Indian people. He was beaten. He was imprisoned. His life was threatened. One time, someone had him down on the ground, choking him. And how did he respond? He laughed. When there was a massacre, because there would be these numerous massacres between Hindus and Muslims. And when there was so sometimes Muslims would be massacred, sometimes Hindus would be massacred, and they would take revenge on each other. That's why Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. As we try to get revenge, we're just escalating it and creating more and more trauma. And so on one occasion, there was a large group of Hindus that were massacred, and he was Hindu. And he was for oneness. He was for unity. And so he went to the Muslim leader that was considered to be in charge of that massacre. And here's what he said to that Muslim leader. There is only one solution. You and I have to move in together. Like, pardon me? Because he believed in peace. And he was dedicated to it no matter what happened. And that's what brought so much of the anger from the Hindus upon Gandhi. Because he didn't want to take sides. He was for everybody's side. He was for unity. He was for people working together. Not polarization. Not people trying to be right and make others wrong. He was for unity. And that's what we are about. And that is what we declare here. So, he declared, be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Instead of complaining, be what it is that you want to see. And declare that in your space. Be that in your space. Know that no matter what the circumstances, no matter how things show up in your life, no matter how difficult other people may be, no matter how wrong people may look to you, realize and establish the oneness of spirit within yourself, knowing that it's up to you. It's up to you to create your experience of life and eliminate all those things that are in the way of expressing the Christ that you are. God bless you.